Sign the papers, AMARA. I'm done pretending this marriage means anything. The crystal champagne flute slipped from Amara Akafer's fingers, shattering across the marble floor of the Grand Meridian Hotel ballroom. 200 guests, Lagos's elite, business moguls, society women dripping in gold, fell silent as her husband of 12 years thrust divorce documents into her trembling hands. Marcus Akafer, CEO of Akafer Luxury Developments, stood before her in his custom Tom Ford tuxedo, his mistress Chidinma clinging to his arm like expensive perfume. The younger woman's scarlet dress screamed wealth that Amara had never possessed, her diamond choker catching the chandelier light with every breath. "You heard him," Chidinma purred, her voice carrying across the ballroom. "Sign them, or are you too illiterate to read what they say?" Amara's vision blurred. This was their anniversary celebration, their 12th. She'd worn the simple blue dress Marcus claimed to love, the one she'd sewn herself because his business investments left little for her personal expenses. Now she understood why. Every naira had been flowing toward this woman, toward this public humiliation. "Marcus, please," Amara whispered, her Igbo accent thickening with emotion. "Not here, not like this." He yanked his arm away when she reached for him. "I should have done this years ago. You were never enough, Amara. Never sophisticated enough, never educated enough, never woman enough. Look at Chidinma. She understands what a man like me needs." The guests shifted uncomfortably. Some pulled out phones. By tomorrow, this would be trending across every Nigerian blog and Instagram gossip page. Amara's mother-in-law, Mama Akafer, stepped forward, her Jeel headdress towering above the crowd. "My son speaks truth. You brought nothing to this marriage except village mentality and cheap cooking. Sign the papers and go back to wherever Marcus found you." The words cut deeper than any blade. 12 years of serving this family, of raising Marcus's children while he built his empire, of keeping his secrets and warming his bed, reduced to nothing in 60 seconds. What would you do if the person you sacrificed everything for destroyed you in front of everyone who mattered? Viewers, before we dive deeper into this incredible story of betrayal and revenge, please do me a favor and help to subscribe right now. Drop a like on this video, it actually helps more than you think. And comment below where you're watching from. Are you in Lagos, New York, London, Jamaica, Canada? I want to know. Amara's hands shook as she stared at the documents. Her eyes caught on the settlement terms. Nothing. No alimony, no property rights, no custody of their 2 children, 10-year-old Adana and 8-year-old Chukwudi. Marcus had structured it so she'd leave with exactly what she'd entered the marriage with. Nothing. "The children," she asked, her voice breaking. "Will stay with their father and their new mother," Marcus said coldly. "Someone who can actually provide them with the life they deserve." Chidinma laughed, the sound like breaking glass. "Don't worry, Amara. I'll teach them to forget you existed. It won't take long, children are so adaptable." Something shifted in Amara's chest. Not breaking, hardening. She looked at Marcus, really looked at him and saw a stranger. This man had courted her in the University of Lagos parking lot, promising her the world. He'd been nobody then, just another ambitious graduate with big dreams and empty pockets. She'd believed in those dreams, worked 3 jobs to support them while he established his first property deal. She'd introduced him to her mentor, Mrs. Ezen Akaro, the wealthy businesswoman who'd taken Amara under her wing during her university years. It was Mrs. Akaro who'd connected Marcus with investors, who'd opened doors that would have remained locked for decades. And now he stood here, erasing her from his success story like she was a typo in his biography. "I need a pen," Amara said quietly. Triumph flashed across Marcus's face. Chidinma squealed with delight. Mama Akafer nodded approvingly. But when the hotel manager rushed forward with a gold-plated pen, Amara didn't sign. Instead, she looked directly at Marcus and said, "I need to make a phone call first. You've given me papers. I should read them properly with my lawyer, shouldn't I? You don't have a lawyer, Marcus scoffed. You don't have anything. Amara smiled, and it was a smile Marcus had never seen before. Cold, calculated, dangerous. You're right, Marcus. I don't have much, but I know someone who does. She pulled out her phone, not the cheap Android Marcus had bought her last Christmas, but a sleek iPhone Pro she'd kept hidden in her purse. Mrs. Okoro. Yes, it's Amara. I think it's time we had that conversation about my investment portfolio and majority shareholding in Akafor Luxury Developments. The ballroom erupted. Marcus's face drained of color. Chidinma's grip on his arm tightened, her perfectly manicured nails digging into his sleeve. What investment portfolio? Marcus stammered. Amara, what are you? Did you really think I spent 12 years just cooking and cleaning, Marcus? Amara's voice carried across the silent ballroom now, strong and clear. Did you think I was too village to understand business, too uneducated to read contracts? She turned to address the crowd, many of whom were Marcus's business partners and investors. My husband is asking me to sign away my rights to a marriage, but what he doesn't know is that I own 48% of his company, purchased through a private holding company established in my maiden name, with Mrs. Okoro as the registered director to protect my identity. Marcus lunged forward, grabbing the phone from her hand. You're lying. This is impossible. Check with your CFO, Amara said calmly. Better yet, check the company registry, Ezen Holdings Limited. Review your shareholder agreements from your last capital raise 3 years ago. You were so desperate for funding to close the Victoria Island development that you didn't even read who was investing. You just saw the money and signed. The truth crashed over Marcus like a wave. 3 years ago, during his most desperate financial period, an investment firm had offered him a lifeline, 48 million naira for 48% equity. He'd been so focused on saving his company that he hadn't investigated the investor beyond surface-level due diligence. He whispered, but how, where would you get? From the 3 properties I purchased in Lekki with my personal savings before we got married, Amara said. The ones I registered in my maiden name. The ones that tripled in value when your development projects raised property values across the district. I simply sold them at the right time and reinvested in your company, the one you were about to lose. She picked up the divorce papers and with deliberate slowness tore them in half. I'm not signing anything tonight, Marcus, but I will see you Monday morning at 9 a.m. in the company boardroom. As majority shareholder, because I also hold proxy votes from 2 other minority investors, I'm calling an emergency meeting to discuss new management structure. Chidinma's voice turned shrill. Marcus, do something. She can't. She can, said a deep voice from the entrance. Mr. Biodun Ademi, Marcus's lead investor and board chairman, stepped forward with his lawyer. I received documentation this afternoon confirming Mrs. Okafor's controlling interest. I've been trying to reach you all evening, Marcus, but you were too busy with other matters. Marcus's knees buckled. He grabbed a chair to steady himself. Amara, please, we can talk about this. The divorce was a mistake. I wasn't thinking clearly. Oh, you were thinking very clearly, Amara interrupted. You were thinking I was worthless, disposable, invisible. You were wrong on all 3 counts. She walked past him, her simple blue dress suddenly looking regal against the opulent ballroom. At the door, she paused and turned back. Oh, and Chidinma, that diamond choker you're wearing, Marcus purchased it with company funds that require board approval for personal expenses over 5,000 naira. We'll be discussing that on Monday too. I hope you kept the receipt. The Monday morning sun pierced through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Akafor Luxury Development's executive boardroom, casting harsh shadows across Marcus's pale face. He sat at the head of the 20-person mahogany table, his position now feeling more like a defendant's chair than a throne. Amara entered at 8:58 a.m., 2 minutes early, flanked by Mrs. Ezin Okoro, and a legal team that made Marcus's stomach turn. She wore a navy power suit he'd never seen before, Ankara fabric tailored to perfection, her natural hair styled in elegant cornrows adorned with gold thread. She looked like what she'd always been, but he'd refused to see: powerful. "Good morning, board members," Amara said, taking the seat directly across from Marcus. "Thank you for attending on such short notice." Mr. Adami cleared his throat. "Mrs. Okafor, the floor is yours." Marcus tried to speak. "Amara, if we could just—" "Mr. Okafor," Mrs. Okoro cut him off sharply, "you'll have your opportunity to respond after Mrs. Okafor presents her findings. Please remain silent until then." The other board members exchanged glances. Marcus's humiliation was now complete, silenced in his own boardroom. Amara opened a leather portfolio, her hand steady. "Over the past 12 years, I've watched this company grow from a single property deal to a $50 million enterprise. I've also watched systematic financial mismanagement, unauthorized personal expenditures, and what I believe constitutes fraud against minority shareholders." She slid a bound report across the table. "This documents every unauthorized expense my husband charged to company accounts over the past 3 years. Designer clothes, jewelry, luxury vehicles, and a penthouse apartment in Ikoyi, all for his mistress, Chidinma Nwasu, totaling 8 million naira. None of these expenses were disclosed or approved by the board." Marcus's lawyer, Mr. Okonkwo, leaned forward. "Mrs. Okafor, these are serious allegations. Do you have proof beyond circumstantial? Bank statements, credit card receipts, property registration documents, and testimony from the jeweler, the car dealership, and the real estate agent," Amara interrupted, sliding additional folders across the table. "All time-stamped and notarized. I've also included screenshots of text messages between Mr. Okafor and Miss Nwasu discussing how to hide these purchases from company audits." The boardroom fell silent except for the rustling of papers as members reviewed the evidence. Marcus felt the walls closing in. How had Amara gotten his private messages? As if reading his mind, Amara continued, "For the record, I obtained these messages legally. Mr. Okafor and I share a family phone plan. He insisted on it to save money, which means I have legal access to account backups. I simply downloaded his cloud data 3 months ago when I began suspecting financial irregularities." 3 months ago, Marcus found his voice. "You've been planning this for 3 months." Amara met his gaze without flinching. "I've been protecting my investment for 3 months. There's a difference." Mr. Adami removed his reading glasses. "Mrs. Okafor, what action are you proposing?" "Immediate suspension of Mr. Okafor as CEO, pending a full financial audit. Appointment of an interim CEO to manage operations during the investigation. And personal reimbursement to the company for all unauthorized expenses, with interest." "This is absurd." Marcus slammed his palm on the table. "I built this company. Everything here exists because of my vision, my work." "Your vision that I funded," Amara said quietly. "Your work that I supported while raising your children alone. Your success that stands on a foundation I helped pour." Mrs. Okoro added, "The board should also know that Mrs. Okafor has been instrumental in securing 3 of our largest contracts over the years. The Victoria Island development. Mrs. Okafor's connection to the Obiagwu family made that possible. The Lekki Phase 2 project. Her former university roommate sits on the State Housing Committee." Marcus stared at his wife as if seeing her for the first time. "You did that." "I did many things, Marcus. You just never asked. You assumed I spent my days watching Nollywood films and gossiping with market women." Amara's voice remained level, but pain flickered beneath the surface. "You never wondered how doors kept opening for you, how investors kept appearing at exactly the right moment, how problems kept resolving themselves." She pulled out another document. This is my counterproposal to your divorce petition. Joint custody of our children with primary residence remaining with me. Division of all marital assets acquired during our marriage, including the Banana Island house, the cars, and the investment properties. And my continued shareholding in the company, with active participation in major business decisions. You want to control my company, Marcus said bitterly. Our company, Amara corrected. And no, I don't want to control it. I want to ensure it's run ethically and profitably. There's a difference. Chidinma burst through the boardroom doors, her Hermes bag swinging. Marcus, your secretary said you were in a meeting, but I need to talk to you about the trip to Dubai. She stopped short, seeing the assembled board and the documents scattered across the table. Miss Nwasu, Mr. Ademi said icily, this is a private board meeting. How did you get past security? Chidinma's confidence wavered, but she recovered quickly. I'm Marcus's partner. I have every right to be here. You're his mistress, Amara said flatly. You have no legal standing in this company or this meeting. Security, please escort Miss Nwasu from the building. 2 security guards appeared at the door. Chidinma looked to Marcus desperately. Baby, tell them. Tell them about our plans, about how we're going to. Chidinma, not now, Marcus hissed. But Amara leaned forward, suddenly interested. No, please continue, Miss Nwasu. What plans? I'm very curious. Chidinma's eyes darted between Marcus and the board members. She'd walked into a trap and was only now realizing it. I just meant our personal plans, the wedding. The wedding you've been planning using company vendors and company accounts. Amara pulled out yet another folder. The 4 million naira wedding at the Eco Hotel, scheduled for next month. The one you told the event planner to build to Akafar Luxury Developments as a corporate event. Marcus's face went from pale to gray. He hadn't known Chidinma had done that. I can explain, Chidinma started. Please don't, Amara said tiredly. Just leave, you've done enough damage. As security escorted a protesting Chidinma out, Mr. Ademi called for a vote. All in favor of Mrs. Akafar's proposal to suspend Mr. Akafar pending investigation and appoint an interim CEO. 6 hands went up, a clear majority. All opposed. Marcus raised his hand alone. Even his own appointed board members had turned against him. The motion carries, Mr. Ademi announced. Mr. Akafar, you're suspended effective immediately. Please surrender your company phone, laptop, and office keys to security. You'll receive instructions for the audit process within 48 hours. Marcus stood slowly, the weight of his collapse visible in every movement. He looked at Amara across the table, the woman he dismissed, humiliated, and underestimated. I loved you once, he said softly. You loved what I could do for you, Amara replied. You never loved me. If you had, you would have seen me. As Marcus walked out, shoulders slumped, Mrs. Akoro placed a gentle hand on Amara's arm. Are you all right, my dear? Amara watched her husband disappear through the boardroom doors, her expression unreadable. I will be. For the first time in 12 years, I will be. But as the board meeting concluded and members filed out, Amara's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You think you've won. Marcus isn't the only one with secrets. Ask your precious Mrs. Akoro where her son is right now with your children. Amara's blood ran cold. She looked at Mrs. Akoro, who was checking her own phone, her face draining of color. Ezin, where's Tund? Amara asked urgently. Mrs. Akoro's voice shook. He texted me this morning. Said he was taking Adana and Chakwudi to school as a favor to you because you had the board meeting. The 2 women's eyes met in shared horror. Neither had authorized anyone to pick up the children. Call the school, Amara commanded, her voice cutting through rising panic. Now. Mrs. Akoro dialed with trembling fingers, then looked up, her face stricken. The children never arrived. Who has taken Amara's children and what do they want? Is Marcus behind this desperate move, or is there another player in this deadly game? Don't forget to like and subscribe. Comment below. What do you think is really happening? Amara's world tilted. The boardroom, her victory, the satisfaction of watching Marcus crumble, all of it evaporated in an instant. Her children were gone. "Call the police," she commanded, her voice surprisingly steady despite the terror coursing through her veins. "Now." Mrs. Okoro was already dialing. Amara grabbed her own phone and pulled up the family tracking app she'd secretly installed on Adana's phone 6 months ago, a precaution she'd taken when Marcus's behavior had become increasingly erratic. Her daughter's location pinged. Lekki Peninsula, moving along the coastal road. "They're heading toward the Eastern Expressway," Amara said, showing Mrs. Okoro the screen. "Whoever has them is leaving Lagos." The police arrived within 20 minutes, unusually fast, but Mrs. Okoro had connections that opened doors. Inspector Yemi Adebio, a no-nonsense woman in her 40s, took Amara's statement while technical officers traced the phone signal. "Mrs. Okafor, who would want to harm your children?" Inspector Adebio asked. "My husband," Amara said without hesitation. "Ex-husband. I just had him removed as CEO of his own company. He's desperate." "Mama Okafor, his mother, is capable of anything," Mrs. Okoro added. "She's made threats before about taking the children away from Amara." But even as they spoke, Amara's intuition nagged at her. This felt different, too calculated, too perfectly timed to destroy her moment of triumph. Her phone buzzed again. Another text from the unknown number. "Victoria Garden City, House 47. Come alone. No police. You have 30 minutes or your children learn what happens to pawns in adult games." Amara showed the message to Inspector Adebio, who immediately began coordinating a tactical response. "Mrs. Okafor, you're not going in there alone." "I have to. They said no police." "And I'm saying we'll be there, just not visible." The inspector's voice was firm. "We'll set up a perimeter. You'll wear a wire. We'll have eyes on you the entire time." 23 minutes later, Amara pulled up to the address, a massive colonial-style house in one of Lagos's most exclusive neighborhoods. Her hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles had gone white. The wire taped to her chest felt like it was burning through her skin. She approached the front door. It swung open before she could knock. Inside stood Chidinma, but this wasn't the pouty mistress from the ballroom. This woman wore business casual, her hair pulled back severely, her eyes cold and calculating. Behind her, Adana and Chukwudi sat on a leather sofa, looking confused but unharmed. "Mommy." Adana started to run forward, but Chidinma grabbed her shoulder. "Not yet, sweetheart. Your mommy and I need to chat first." Amara's fear transformed into fury. "If you've hurt them." "Relax, Amara, I'm not a monster." Chidinma gestured to a chair. "Sit, we need to discuss terms." "Terms?" Amara remained standing. "For what? You've kidnapped my children." "Kidnapping is such an ugly word. I prefer strategic intervention." Chidinma poured herself a glass of wine, utterly calm. "You see, you've created a problem for me. I've invested 2 years in Marcus, time, energy, services. I was 3 weeks away from becoming Mrs. Marcus Okafor, wealthy society wife with access to everything that mattered. Then you swooped in with your little corporate takeover and ruined everything." "You knew about the shareholding," Amara realized. "That's why Marcus suddenly wanted a divorce now at our anniversary party. You pushed him to do it publicly, to humiliate me into signing without reading the terms." Chidinma smiled. "Very good. Yes, I found paperwork in Marcus's home office 3 months ago. Some documents from Ezen Holdings that he'd shoved in a drawer and forgotten about. I did some research, connected the dots, but instead of warning Marcus, I saw an opportunity." She walked to the window, looking out at the manicured gardens. "See, Marcus is an idiot, brilliant at property development, terrible at everything else. But you You're the real player, the silent partner, the puppet master. And I thought, why settle for being Mrs. Marcus Acaffer when I could negotiate directly with the real power? What do you want? Amara asked, her mind racing. The police were listening. She needed to keep Chidinma talking. 20 million naira transferred to my offshore account within the hour. In exchange, your children go home safe, and I disappear from Lagos permanently. Chidinma pulled out a tablet showing bank account details. Consider it a severance package for the trouble I've endured. That's extortion. That's business. Chidinma's voice hardened. You have 45 minutes to make the transfer before I change my terms. And before you think about the police listening through that wire you're wearing, yes, I know about it. Understand that I have insurance. My associate has a flash drive with evidence of certain financial irregularities in Mrs. Okoro's charitable foundation. Tax evasion, misappropriation of donor funds, quite scandalous really. If I don't check in every 30 minutes, that evidence goes to every news outlet in Nigeria. Mrs. Okoro's voice crackled through Amara's earpiece. Amara, don't listen to her, it's a bluff. My foundation's books are clean. But Amara saw something in Chidinma's eyes, the truth behind the threat. Show me the evidence. Chidinma pulled up files on her tablet. As Amara scanned them, her heart sank. These weren't fabrications. Someone had indeed been skimming from Mrs. Okoro's foundation, and the paper trail was meticulously documented. Your precious mentor isn't as pure as you think, Chidinma said smugly. Her son Tund has been stealing from the foundation for 3 years. 500,000 naira, funneled through dummy vendors and fake invoices. Mrs. Okoro might not know, or she might be protecting him. Either way, this goes public and her reputation is destroyed. Amara's mind whirled. Tund, Mrs. Okoro's troubled son, who'd struggled with gambling debts and bad investments. Could he have been desperate enough to steal from his own mother's charity? Why are you doing this? Amara asked quietly. You had Marcus, you could have just walked away. For the first time, Chidinma's mask cracked. Because I'm tired of being the mistress, the side piece, the woman everyone looks down on. You think I wanted this life? I started as Marcus's executive assistant 3 years ago. I was good at my job. But the moment I showed interest in business strategy, he only saw me as decoration. So I played the role he wanted, gathered intelligence, and waited for my opportunity. She laughed bitterly. The irony is, you and I aren't that different, Amara. We both learned to hide in plain sight to let men underestimate us while we built our own power. But you had a legal claim. I just had pillow talk and promises. So yes, I'm cashing out. And you're going to help me do it. Amara glanced at her children. Adana's eyes were wide with fear, but she was holding Chakwuti's hand, keeping him calm. Strong like her mother. All right, Amara said finally. I'll make the transfer. But not until my children are in my car, driving away from here. You can track the transfer in real time, but they leave first. Chidinma considered this. Fine, but Mrs. Okoro stays here as collateral until the money clears, and the flash drive only gets destroyed after I'm safely out of Nigerian airspace. I have a flight to Dubai in 4 hours. Amara, no. Mrs. Okoro's voice came through the earpiece. Don't sacrifice yourself for my mistakes. But Amara was already pulling out her phone. Inspector, stand down. I'm making the transfer. Mrs. Akaffer, we can breach now. And risk my children, stand down. Amara's voice was steel. That's an order. She opened her banking app, fingers hovering over the transfer button. Then she looked at Chidinma. One question first. Did Marcus know about any of this? The kidnapping, the extortion? Chidinma laughed. Marcus? God, no. He's probably still at home crying into his whiskey, wondering how his simple village wife outsmarted him. He has no idea I've been playing him almost as long as you have. That's what I thought. Amara hit transfer. 20 million naira. Nearly everything she had in liquid assets flowed from her account to Chidinma's. The younger woman checked her phone, smiled, and nodded. Pleasure doing business with you. Kids, go to your mother." Adana and Chukwudi ran to Amara, who held them tightly, breathing in their familiar scent. "Go to the car," she whispered. "Inspector Adebio is outside. You're safe now." As her children left, Amara turned back to Chidinma. "You made one mistake in all of this." "Oh, what's that?" "You assumed I was alone in my planning." Amara smiled grimly. "That transfer you just received, it didn't come from my personal account. It came from a frozen asset account linked to an ongoing EFCC investigation into financial fraud. The moment you accepted those funds, you became part of the investigation." Chidinma's face went white. "You're bluffing." "Check your phone. The EFCC should be calling right about now." As if on cue, Chidinma's phone rang unknown number. She stared at it, then at Amara, realization dawning. "You see, Chidinma, I've spent 3 months not just protecting my investment, but working with federal investigators to build a case against Marcus's financial crimes. They needed a way to catch his accomplices, people who'd helped him hide money, falsify records. When I found out about you, I offered them a better target." The front door burst open. Inspector Adebio entered with a full tactical team, followed by EFCC agents in their distinctive jackets. "Chidinma Nwasu, you're under arrest for extortion, kidnapping, and money laundering. You have the right to remain silent." As they handcuffed Chidinma, the younger woman looked at Amara with something between respect and hatred. "I underestimated you." "Everyone does," Amara replied. "That's been my greatest advantage." After the police left with Chidinma, Mrs. Okoro emerged from a back room, tears streaming down her face. "Amara, the foundation, Tund, is being handled," Amara said gently. "The EFCC agreed to a quiet settlement if Tund repays what he stole and enters a rehabilitation program for gambling addiction. Your foundation's reputation will survive, but Tund needs help." Mrs. Okoro embraced her. "How did you arrange all this?" "I started planning the moment I realized what Marcus was doing. I couldn't just divorce him. He'd have destroyed me in court. I needed leverage, allies, and evidence. So I built a case, piece by piece, making sure everyone who'd helped him victimize me would face consequences." She paused, exhaustion washing over her. "But I never expected Chidinma to be this calculating. I thought she was just a mistress. Turns out, she was running her own game parallel to mine." "What happens now?" Mrs. Okoro asked. Amara looked out the window at her children sitting safely in Inspector Adebio's patrol car. Now we finish this. Marcus still doesn't know the full extent of what's coming for him, and I think it's time he found out. Has justice finally caught up with Marcus, or does he have one last card to play? The final confrontation is coming and you won't want to miss it. If this story has you gripped, please subscribe and hit that notification bell. Comment below. Do you think Chidinma deserved what she got, or do you feel sorry for her? 3 days later, Marcus Akafor sat in his lawyer's cramped office in Ikja, a far cry from the luxurious boardrooms he'd once commanded. The EFCC had frozen his personal accounts, seized his cars, and placed a lien on the Banana Island house. Overnight, he'd gone from billionaire to barely solvent, dependent on what little cash he'd hidden away. Mr. Okonkwo, his lawyer, looked exhausted. "Marcus, I'm going to be blunt. Your position is catastrophic. The EFCC has evidence of embezzlement, tax fraud, and misappropriation of corporate funds. Chidinma's arrest has led them to your offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands. And your wife." "Ex-wife," Marcus interrupted bitterly. "Your still legal wife," Okonkwo corrected, "is cooperating fully with investigators. She's positioned herself as a whistleblower, which means she's protected. You're not." Marcus slammed his fist on the desk. "She set me up. Everything I built, she's destroying." "Everything you built with embezzled funds and fraud," Okonkwo said dryly. "Marcus, she didn't set you up. She documented your crimes. There's a difference." What are my options? Negotiate. She's offering a deal through the EFCC. Plead guilty to the financial crimes, serve a reduced sentence, probably 3 to 5 years, and agree to fair custody arrangements for the children. In exchange, she'll help structure your assets so your children don't lose everything when the government seizes your property. She's offering to help me, Marcus laughed hollowly. Why? Because despite everything, she doesn't want your children to hate you forever. She wants them to have a father who made mistakes but took responsibility. Marcus stared at his hands, the same hands that had signed contracts worth millions, that had pushed Amara away when she tried to embrace him at their anniversary party. I threw her away like garbage. Why would she care about my relationship with our children? You'd have to ask her that yourself. That evening, Marcus stood outside Amara's new apartment in Lekki Phase 1, a modest 3-bedroom she'd rented after leaving the Banana Island house. He'd expected her to flaunt her victory, to move into a mansion. Instead, she'd chosen a place close to the children's school, with a small garden where they could play. She answered the door in simple jeans and an Ankara blouse, her hair in a natural afro. Without makeup or designer clothes, she looked younger, more like the woman he'd fallen in love with 16 years ago in that university parking lot. Marcus, she said neutrally, come in. The apartment smelled like jollof rice and plantains, Adana's favorite meal. Through the living room, he could hear his children doing homework at the dining table, their voices mingling with evening news on the television. Can I see them? He asked. Amara hesitated, then nodded. 15 minutes, and Marcus, don't make promises you can't keep. Adana looked up when he entered the dining room. Daddy. She ran to him, and Marcus caught her in a fierce embrace, tears streaming down his face. Chukwudi followed more cautiously, his son's eyes holding questions Marcus wasn't ready to answer. I'm sorry, Marcus whispered. I'm so sorry for everything. After the children returned to their homework, Amara led Marcus to the small balcony. The Lagos skyline glittered before them, the same city that had witnessed his rise and fall within a single week. Your lawyer told you about the deal, Amara said. It wasn't a question. Yes, I don't understand why you're offering it. Amara looked out at the city. Because those children in there deserve better than what we're giving them. They deserve a father who made mistakes but owned them, not a father who's remembered as a criminal who ran from consequences. And despite everything, Marcus, I don't want to destroy you. I just wanted to stop you from destroying me. I did destroy you, Marcus said quietly, at that party in front of everyone. No, Amara interrupted firmly. You tried to destroy me, but I'd already built something you couldn't see, couldn't touch, couldn't take away. You destroyed our marriage, yes, but you didn't destroy me. Marcus was silent for a long moment. I convinced myself you were simple, uncomplicated. I told myself you were lucky to have me, that I was the prize you'd won. I never saw that you were the prize, and I was too blind to value you. When did you stop seeing me? Amara asked softly. Marcus thought back. I don't think I ever truly saw you. Even in the beginning, when I thought I loved you, I loved what you represented, the pure, supportive woman who believed in me. But I never looked deeper. I never asked about your dreams, your intelligence, your business acumen. I just assumed you had none of those things because you didn't flaunt them. I had to hide them, Amara said. The first time I offered business advice, 2 years into our marriage, you laughed and told me to focus on cooking. So I stopped offering. But I didn't stop thinking. I didn't stop planning. I just learned to do it silently. And when you couldn't take it anymore, you didn't just leave. You built an exit strategy that would protect you and the children. Marcus shook his head in wonder. You're brilliant, Amara. You always were. I just couldn't see past my own arrogance. So what now? Amara asked. Will you take the deal? Marcus turned to face her fully. If I plead guilty, I go to prison. I lose years with my children. If you don't, you go to trial. probably lose anyway, and serve a longer sentence while spending everything on legal fees. The children lose their father either way, but in one scenario, they lose their financial security too. You've thought this through. I've thought about nothing else for 3 days. Amara's voice cracked slightly. I want you to understand something, Marcus. I'm not doing this because I forgive you. I'm not doing this because I still love you. I'm doing this because Adana asked me yesterday if you were going to disappear forever, and I saw the fear in her eyes. Our children have lost enough. Marcus felt something break inside him, the last vestige of pride that had kept him from seeing the full scope of his failures. I'll take the deal. I'll plead guilty. I'll serve my time. And when I get out, I'll spend the rest of my life being a better father than I was a husband. That's all I ask. Amara turned to go inside, then paused. Marcus, one more thing. Yes. In prison, you'll have a lot of time to think. Use it. Figure out who you are without the money, the status, the power. Because that person, the real Marcus Akafor, is someone I'd like my children to know. After Marcus left, Mrs. Okoro arrived with documents for Amara to sign, transfer papers for full operational control of Akafor Luxury Developments, while Marcus served his sentence. You're being too kind to him, Mrs. Okoro said, after what he did to you. I'm not being kind to him, Amara replied. I'm being kind to my children. There's a difference. She signed the papers, officially becoming CEO of the company that bore her husband's name but had always run on her hidden contributions. It should have felt triumphant. Instead, it just felt necessary. Her phone rang the children's school. Mrs. Akafor, this is Principal Adego. There's been an incident. Mama Akafor came to pick up your children claiming you'd authorized it. When we refused based on your standing instructions, she caused quite a scene. Security had to escort her off the premises. She's threatening legal action. Amara closed her eyes. Of course. Marcus's mother hadn't been heard from since the anniversary party, but Amara should have known she wouldn't stay silent forever. Thank you for following protocol, Principal. I'm increasing security measures for the children effective immediately. No one picks them up except me or individuals on a pre-approved list with photo ID and a security code that changes weekly. After hanging up, Amara found Mrs. Okoro watching her with concern. Mama Akafor isn't done fighting, is she? No, Amara said. She lost her son's company, his wealth, and his respect. She'll blame me for all of it. What will you do? Amara's jaw set with determination. What I should have done years ago. I'm going to confront her directly, on my terms, and end this family war before it traumatizes my children any further. She picked up her phone and dialed. When Mama Akafor answered, her voice dripped with venom. You have some nerve calling me after what you've done to my son. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. at your house in Victoria Island, Amara said calmly. You and me, one final conversation. Bring your pastor, your family lawyer, and any witnesses you want. We're settling this permanently. I'll destroy you, Mama Akafor hissed. You can try, Amara replied. See you tomorrow. One final battle remains. Amara versus Mama Akafor in the ultimate confrontation. Will the mother-in-law's rage finally be silenced, or does she have one last devastating move? Find out in the final chapter. Don't forget to subscribe for the conclusion of this incredible story. Comment below. What do you think Mama Akafor will try to do? Mama Akafor's Victoria Island mansion rose like a fortress, 3 stories of white stone and black gates, a monument to old money and older grudges. Amara arrived exactly at 10 a.m. in her modest Honda Accord, deliberately choosing not to flaunt her new corporate position. This wasn't about power. This was about peace. Inside, Mama Akafor had assembled her tribunal, Pastor Adebio from their family church, Mr. Chukwuma, her longtime lawyer, and 3 of her age group society friends, wealthy women in expensive gels who'd been criticizing Amara for 12 years. They sat in the formal living room like a jury, waiting to pass judgment. "You're late," Mama Akefer announced, though Amara was precisely on time. "Good morning, Mama," Amara said respectfully, using the traditional greeting despite everything. "Thank you for agreeing to meet." "I didn't agree. You demanded." Mama Akefer gestured imperiously to a chair positioned at the center of the room, the accused seat. "But let's hear what nonsense you've come to say before I tell you what I think of daughters-in-law who destroy their husbands." Amara sat calmly, smoothing her blue Ankara dress. "I'm here to discuss the children." "Those children are Akafors," Mama Akefer snapped. "They belong with their father's family, not with the woman who put their father in prison." "Their father put himself in prison by committing crimes," Amara corrected gently. "I simply refuse to be complicit in covering them up." One of the society friends, Mrs. N. Namdi, leaned forward. "You should have protected your husband. That's what a good wife does." "A good wife isn't an accomplice to fraud," Amara replied. "And I did protect my husband. I protected him from an even longer sentence by helping him accept responsibility. Now I'm here to protect my children from being used as weapons in a war that should never have started." Pastor Adebio cleared his throat. "Mrs. Akefer, the younger Mrs. Akefer, what exactly are you proposing?" "Mama Akefer wants access to Adana and Chukwudi. That's reasonable, they're her grandchildren. But yesterday's incident at the school shows we need clear boundaries." Amara pulled out a document. "I'm proposing scheduled visitation, every other Sunday afternoon here at Mama's house for 4 hours. The children need their grandmother's love, but they also need stability and safety." "You dare set conditions on when I can see my own grandchildren?" Mama Akefer's voice rose. "After you've stolen my son's company, ruined his reputation, and destroyed this family's good name." "I didn't steal anything that wasn't already mine," Amara said, her patience wearing thin. "And your son destroyed his own reputation when he committed fraud and paraded his mistress in public. I'm offering olive branches, Mama, but I won't let you traumatize my children with attempts to take them from their mother." "Your children," Mama Akefer stood, trembling with rage. "You were nothing when Marcus found you, a poor girl from Enugu with dreams above her station. I told him not to marry you, but he was foolish. And now you sit here in your cheap dress, pretending to be important because you tricked your way into ownership of a company you don't understand." "That's enough, Mama," Mrs. Okoro's voice came from the doorway. She'd entered quietly, uninvited but necessary. "You need to hear some truths you've ignored for 12 years. This doesn't concern you, Ezen. It concerns me greatly, because I've watched you belittle Amara at every family gathering, criticize her cooking, mock her education, and treat her like a servant in front of your son. You taught Marcus to disrespect his wife. You created the environment where he felt entitled to betray her." Mama Akefer's face flushed purple. "How dare you?" "How dare you," Mrs. Okoro continued, "treat a woman who brought your son every major business opportunity as worthless. Amara was never nothing. She was the foundation Marcus built his empire on, and you were too blinded by her humble background to see her brilliance." Mr. Chukwuma, the family lawyer, spoke up reluctantly. "Mrs. Akefer, the elder, I've reviewed the documentation. Everything the younger Mrs. Akefer claims about her business contributions is true. She legally owns 48% of the company through investments made from her personal assets. Marcus's removal as CEO was legitimate corporate governance." "Whose side are you on?" Mama Akefer spat. "The side of truth," he replied quietly. "And the truth is, your son made choices that led to his downfall. Mrs. Amara didn't create those choices. She simply refused to be destroyed by them." Pastor Adebio nodded slowly. "I've counseled your family for 20 years, Mama Akefer. I've watched this marriage struggle under the weight of disrespect and adultery. Mrs. Amara has shown remarkable restraint and grace. Perhaps instead of fighting her, You should thank God that your grandchildren have a mother strong enough to protect them when their father failed. Mama Akafor looked around at her assembled tribunal, the people she'd brought to support her condemnation of Amara, and saw doubt in their eyes. Her lawyer, her pastor, even her friends were no longer certain she was right. "So I'm the villain," she whispered, "after everything I sacrificed for my son." "You're not a villain, Mama," Amara said softly. "You're a mother who loves her son. I understand that. But loving him doesn't mean enabling his worst behavior, and it definitely doesn't mean punishing me for refusing to enable it." She stood and approached Mama Akafor directly. "I'm going to tell you something I've never said out loud. When Marcus brought me home to meet you for the first time, I was terrified. I knew I wasn't what you wanted for your son. I knew I came from nothing compared to your family's status. But I promised myself I would earn your respect through hard work, dedication, and love for your son." Amara's voice cracked. "For 12 years I tried. I learned your recipes, attended your church, joined your social clubs, raised your grandchildren according to your traditions. I bent myself into shapes trying to become the daughter-in-law you'd accept. And nothing was ever enough. So eventually, I stopped trying to earn your love and started building something that couldn't be taken from me, my own worth." Mama Akafor's eyes glistened with unshed tears. "You never understood what I wanted for Marcus. I wanted him to have a wife who matched his potential, who could stand beside him in society. I always matched his potential, Mama. I exceeded it. You just couldn't see past where I came from to see who I'd become." Silence filled the room, heavy, profound silence that held 12 years of pain, misunderstanding, and missed opportunities. Finally, Mrs. N. Namdi spoke, her voice gentle. "Mama Akafor, I've known you for 30 years. You're a good woman, but you've been wrong about this girl. I've been wrong too. We all have. She's not the enemy. She's the woman who held your family together while your son was tearing it apart." Mama Akafor sank back into her chair, suddenly looking older than her 65 years. "What do you want from me, Amara?" "I want peace. I want my children to know their grandmother without fear. I want Sunday dinners where we're not enemies. I want you to see Adana and Chakwudi grow up, and I want them to learn from your strength and wisdom. But I need you to respect me as their mother and as a woman who deserves dignity. And if I can't, if I still believe Marcus was wronged, then we maintain supervised visitation and professional boundaries. The children won't lose you, but they won't be caught in the middle of adult battles either." Mama Akafor closed her eyes. When she opened them, something had shifted, not quite acceptance, but recognition. "My son committed crimes, he betrayed you, he destroyed his own life." The words came slowly, painfully. "And I made excuses for him because admitting his failures meant admitting I'd failed as a mother." "You didn't fail as a mother," Amara said. "Marcus made his own choices as an adult. But I taught him that certain people were beneath us. I taught him to value status over character. I taught him that a woman's worth came from her pedigree, not her person." Mama Akafor looked at Amara with something that might have been remorse. "I taught him to see you the way I saw you, and that was wrong." It wasn't an apology, not quite, but it was acknowledgement, and for now that was enough. "The visitation schedule," Mama Akafor said finally. "Show me what you're proposing." They spent the next hour negotiating terms. Mama Akafor could see the children every other Sunday, with the possibility of additional visits on holidays pending good behavior. She would not speak negatively about their mother in their presence. She would not attempt to undermine Amara's parenting decisions. In exchange, Amara would ensure the children learned about their Akafor heritage and maintained connections to their father's family traditions. As the meeting concluded, Pastor Adebyo offered a prayer for healing and wisdom. Even Mama Akafor bowed her head, though her lips barely moved. At the door, Mama Akafor stopped Amara. "This doesn't mean I approve of what you did to Marcus." "I know," Amara said, "but maybe someday you'll understand why I had to do it." "Maybe," Mama Akafor paused. "The children, They look like him at that age. When Marcus was young before ambition hardened him. Keep them soft, Amara. Don't let this world make them cruel. That's exactly what I'm trying to do, Mama. 2 months later, Amara stood in the boardroom of Akafor Luxury Developments, now officially renamed Akafor Resin Development Partners, reflecting both her contribution and Mrs. Okoro's mentorship. The company's first major project under her leadership had just been approved: affordable housing developments in 3 Lagos neighborhoods, partnering with the state government to address the city's housing crisis. It wasn't the glamorous high-end luxury Marcus had favored, but it was sustainable, ethical, and would actually help people. Amara had found her purpose beyond mere survival, building something meaningful. Her phone buzzed, a message from Marcus, who was 3 weeks into his prison sentence. Adana sent me a drawing from her visit to Mama's house last Sunday. She drew 3 women holding hands, you, her, and Mama. She titled it My Strong Women. I think you're performing miracles. Amara smiled, tears pricking her eyes. Not miracles, just the hard work of choosing peace over revenge, justice over destruction, and her children's well-being over her own wounded pride. Mrs. Okoro entered the boardroom. The board is ready for your presentation on the Phase 2 expansion. Coming. Amara gathered her documents, then paused at the window overlooking Lagos's chaotic beauty. Somewhere in the city, Chidinma was awaiting trial. Marcus was serving his sentence. Mama Akafor was learning to be a grandmother instead of a matriarch. And Amara, the poor village girl who'd been dismissed, betrayed, and underestimated, was rebuilding not just a company but a family's broken foundation. She thought about the woman she'd been at that anniversary party 7 weeks ago, standing in her simple blue dress while her world shattered around her. That woman had already been strong. She just hadn't known it yet. The last 7 weeks had simply revealed the warrior she'd always been. Mrs. Akafor, Mrs. Okoro prompted. Sorry, just thinking about how much can change in 2 months. And how much more will change in the next 2 months and the 2 after that. You're just getting started, Amara. As Amara walked into the boardroom to present her vision for the company's future, she realized Mrs. Okoro was right. This wasn't an ending. It was a beginning. The beginning of a life built on her own terms, where she was visible, valued, and victorious, not because she'd destroyed her enemies, but because she'd refused to let them destroy her. And in the end, that was the greatest revenge of all: thriving. If this tale touched your soul, dear listener, please leave a like and subscribe. Each story I tell carries wisdom about betrayal, resilience, and the strength that comes from knowing your worth. With your support, I can continue sharing these powerful stories with the world. Comment below with your thoughts. Have you ever been underestimated? How did you prove your worth? And where are you watching from today? Your engagement helps other women find these stories when they need them most. Thank you for being part of this community. Until the next story, remember, those who underestimate you are simply revealing their own limitations, not yours. Stay strong, stay wise, and never forget your value.